Good morning and welcome to this weekly market update from MRC Markets. Today is the 29th of July 2013. What we'll do today is go through some technical analysis on Euro dollar, cable dollar, Swiss dollar, yen, Aussie dollar, Euro pound, dollar CAD and gold. So going through quite a lot today. Basically just going through all the majors really. Hopefully it will be of use. We're not making any trade calls or recommendations in this video. You trade at your own risk. If you could please read our full disclaimer on our full website at www.mrcmarkets.com. For anyone who follows out there, we have 3 moving averages on each of these charts. The red one is a 50 simple moving average, the purple is a 100 simple, and the gold is a 200 simple moving average. So yeah, basically just going to look through the charts, review what's been going on, mainly focus on the daily 4 hour, 1 hour. We'll also have a little flick to the weekly as well for a bit of context if needed. And yeah, just review what's been going on and just look at any interesting setups and yeah, just show you anything that I think is of interest and will hopefully be of some use to you. Okay then, let's have a look at the euro dollar charts. This is let's have a little quick flick to the weekly just for a bit of perspective. Last 3 weekly candles been very bullish indeed. Last week's weekly candle just a pure bullish candle really, very little upper wick and lower wick, just a nice big green body. We've closed above the 50 and the 100 week moving averages, so it looks like it just wants to come up and test the 200 week in my opinion. Also be careful of the highs around here. It's around the sort of one spot 33.50s, so not too far away from that really. I mean, in terms of a weekly candle close, we haven't closed above there in a long time, so this will be a key area to look out for. And that's purely on the weekly. I mean, well, there's a bit more actually, but I don't like to dwell too much on the weekly because obviously this is a weekly video, so I want to try and focus on the shorter term setups. But don't forget this setup is still in place. So this fib, so a triple bottom here, which held in between the sort of 50% and 61% zone, and that's rotating higher, and that setup is still technically in play. But also you have the sellers coming in this setup here, and this one is also technically in play, so the sellers want to bring this back down to the 120s. And then you also have this other fib on the weekly, which I think will also be key on the daily as well. This one's still in play as well, so sellers coming in at the yearly highs to the yearly lows, bounced up, sort of come off the 61.8 here with I mean, if you had tight stops, you probably would have been stopped out, but where in fact this setup technically completed, so it came back down, came up, sold off and tested the lows again, but we didn't break the lows, so maybe let's not use that one. But no, there's still quite a few setups on that weekly, but the bias is still bullish in my opinion. Just if you purely base it, because we do these videos on a weekly basis, looking in terms of some sort of weekly bias, you have to say it's bullish really. Just purely in terms of last week's candle, the weekly candles do indicate a lot and they tend to be very accurate, so that's my view on that. And on the daily chart, very choppy really. Looks like I mean, it's just been grinding higher really. A lot of people have been waiting for some sort of healthy retracement. The biggest retracement we got was this one here, so it went up and then back down off the sort of 100-day moving average. I think it may have been a 38.2 fib, so this small one here, it's hard to see there, so you can see it from highs to lows, probably off of 38.2, and that rotated higher. But no, it has really just been grind higher mode, and the next sort of key resistance will be around here, which is sort of 134 level, so that'll be very key to see. I mean, yeah, you can see that on the weekly as well, but in terms of the daily, in terms of daily candle closes, we haven't had one above 134 in a while, so that's the key resistance. And of course, yeah, if it comes back down, I think buying opportunities will be interesting. So let's say if it tops out here, I mean, you can just keep on extending your fib higher. Let's say if it grinds higher and it stops up there, and you can look at this for example. But let's say currently now, let's say if it starts to sell off, then this will be a key fib to look at in my opinion. A lot of people will be looking at. So the current 50% on that is one spot 30.25s, and that also coincides with the previous support around here as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my outtake on Eurodollar. I mean, if you flip it to the 4 hour, it gets a bit messier. I think when it's just been grinding high, the longer term charts are a bit much clearer. And I think, yeah, just stick to the daily and weekly in my opinion. I mean, the 4 hour should be quite choppy, no clear moves really. When you've got the little smaller fibs, for example, this one here played out nicely. That'll bang off the 61.8. And I think this one here, so from that high and using that low, was pretty much up at 50% as well. Not quite 50%. Actually, no. That's just playing games here. How's it zoom in? Yeah, so not quite off the 50%, but I mean, lovely reversal candle, nice lower wick, and that rotated higher. So that's the way to look at it on the shorter term charts, in my opinion. But no, quite an interesting chart. But yeah, it's just still in grind high mode, really. Cable, similar sort of thing, really. I mean, in terms of the weekly, you've still got. I mean, the weekly is a different picture actually. You've still got this huge fib still in play. Off that 61.8 is a ginormous level, 1.4850s. Lovely. We've got a double bottom there, and it really is just grinding higher. Looking to test these key set of moving averages here on this weekly chart. So they're at around 1.56s. Still a long way away from them, about 250 pips. But in terms of just quickly flicking to the weekly, looking for a bias, it's still bullish in my opinion until we get to those weekly moving averages. And yeah, daily chart looks like it's just grinding higher. That 200-day moving average, wouldn't be surprised to see that get tested this week at the 1.5476s. And if we do start to retrace downwards, then this will be a fib that I'll personally be looking at, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be looking at as well. Previous support is around the 61.8, so on Eurodollar the previous support is around 50%, and on here it's 61.8. So if it does top out here, then that will be a key interesting zone there to look out for. Also, its previous support around here just below it as well, around the 1.5023s. So keep an eye out on that. In terms of the opposite direction, this 61.8 is currently holding, and the 1.5392s. So sellers are currently in play on this daily chart in terms of this fib. But I think the longer time frames are more bullish, but that could be the sort of catalyst for a little retracement down, and then so let's say it comes back down off this current 61.8, and then this one could then come and play to bring it back up and create some sort of lower wick on the weekly chart. So yeah, that's my view on cable. Dollar Swiss, quite a messy chart really. You got this trendline support coming in around here. We can bring it around there. We can bring it with the daily daily candlestick body lows. Yeah, it just looks like it just wants to come down to this trendline support really. I mean, very significant sell-off last week. Let's look at it in terms of the weekly actually. Lots of bearish candles there, and you see it's got a lot of room to come down here. In terms of a sort of fib, if you draw from these lows to the highs here, a lot of way down to the 50%. It looks like it's trying to keep it up, but it is struggling, and I would not be surprised to see this trendline support break, and that would sort of coincide with the theory on Eurodollar to grind higher really. This looks like it just wants to trickle down lower, but it could get quite aggressive if we break below this trendline support here. So yeah, that's the sort of perspective on dollar Swiss. So I would say I'll be bearish on that in terms of the longer term charts, and yeah, the 4 hour, nothing massively of interest. Just looks like it really just wants to grind lower really. The only thing I'd really just be focused on is this trendline support. See what happens here. Look, monitor the sort of daily candlestick action. You see these lower wicks here, nice spike. Spike lows, closed above, rotated higher. So see what happens around here. If it does a similar sort of thing, this trendline support could continue to hold. But if we get a very bearish close below, they won't be surprised to see these lows get taken out. Dollar yen. I mean, we have had this extremely strong uptrend. If you look at the weekly, last week's bearish candle though, very, very heavy, and you can see it really has just. It looks like it's starting to top out a bit here. It looks like it wants to have some sort of healthy retracement. In terms of the weekly, this would be the fib I'd be looking at. So really from the lows here, I mean that one there or this one here, but I prefer to play it safe with a more obvious fib. But of course we're a long way away from that. But in terms of the weekly, that's my bias. I think it's got a long way to come down. But the shorter term bias, if you look on the daily chart, we'll be looking at this fib here, currently testing the 50% at 97 spots 65. Currently testing this 50% retracement. Now we're looking to bring that higher, but I would not be surprised to see that get broken. But of course, I mean, in terms of fundamentals, are still very weak for the yen. So the longer term picture will always be grinding higher, in my opinion. But it has had a big grind higher already. So healthy retracement is due, in my opinion. It looks like that's what it wants to come down and do. If we this is a key level around here, sort of 94.21 key support. On that dollar yen, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the dollar yen. I think there's more interesting charts out there. Aussie dollar, we've had an extremely aggressive sell-off. Let's look at this weekly. Very aggressive sell-off, but the last few weeks it's started to pull back a bit, so maybe we'll see a pullback to this 200 week moving average here, or in one very interesting fib I think will be from the yearly highs to the yearly lows. And that sort of coincides here, this sort of 50% to 61.8% range, this 200 week moving average comes right in the middle of that. And also if it does come up here, then the 50 and the 100 may already be down there as well. So that could be very interesting to see. So that's the sort of weekly bias. It does look like it wants to keep on grinding higher. And we'll see a weak US dollar, and that will also coincide with the sort of the bias on the euro dollar as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a grind higher on this euro dollar, this Aussie dollar, sorry. But in terms of daily, it's getting capped at the 50-day moving average at the minute. So if we're going to get that push higher, then we'll need a bullish daily close above this 50-day moving average, in my opinion. And the shorter term time frames are just quite messy, really, I think. If you look at the 4 hour, I suppose you can say that's a fib there, but it hasn't really bounced off of that technically. It's just quite messy, I think. If you're struggling for context, and just flip it to the bigger time frame, it's much clearer. It's easier to pick a bias, in my opinion. And if you see any sort of shorter term setups that fit your bias, then it could be well worth going for. For example, if you look at this here, this could be for 38.2 key support, 100 SMA as well on the 1 hour chart. Looks like it could grind higher. That's the sort of example you could look at. But yeah, bias I think has to be to the long side, really, just in terms of a healthy retracement. And don't forget this fib as well on the weekly. Good for context. There's still got a long way down to the 50% as well. Maybe flip it to the monthly. Is it going to let me flip it to the monthly? That's going to take a while to load, because I just had to reinstall this, so there's no point looking at that now. And also with that key support around here as well, look at that weekly candle as well, so that's at the 88.60, so we're a long way away from that yet. We're looking too far ahead, so yeah, that's the Aussie. Euro sterling, quite a messy chart of recent. Don't forget this trendline support is still in play, so well above that now. 4 hour chart has been quite messy, but I think this fib's been quite interesting here. This one here from lows to the highs, coming off of support there in the sort of this 50%, 61.8% range that's trying to grind higher. But I'm always wary of these ones because you have a trendline support, so I always think maybe it's safer to play the trendline support and a fib confluence as well. But yeah, it is just in sort of grind higher mode really, but quite a messy chart really. All year it's just been chopping around this sort of range in between here and here. No real clear setups, just been really chopping, but now the trendline support is still holding, and it's looking like it is grinding higher. The daily candle's been quite interesting really. You can see the last few here have been nice and bullish, and it is grinding higher. Dollar CAD, this trendline support is actually technically broken, actually that small one there, but this one here is still in play. I'm sort of just zoomed out on this daily one here, so we have it on there. This is a very interesting one because the fibs have been holding so well on it. We spoke about this before, that fib there off the 50% rotated higher, and then you have it off the trendline support there as well, so nice bit of confluence here. Bam, off the 61.8, it's rotated higher, and now is it going to do a similar thing? So this is what I'm personally looking out for. You also got 200-day moving average as well, bang on this around this trend line as well, so lovely bit of confluence there. Maybe it wants to come down to 78.6, so maybe on this chart just leave the 78.6 up there on your fib, and that could be a nice sort of confluence with this trendline support. Also, that's previous support as well. Notice there at the 1.0138. So very interesting chart. It's all about this trendline support on this daily chart, and see how it works with the fibs as well. I mean, to be honest, you don't even need the fibs on there. You just look at that lovely little reversal candle there. That worked, rotated higher. Nice reversal candle here with two there, nice little lower wicks off the 200-day moving average and trendline support. And that was a 61.8% as well. Lovely rotation high. So see what happens if you come down here. It looks like it is because we've closed below the 100-day moving average, and that should cap. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down here to this trendline support and rotate higher. Let's look at the gold chart. So we've done for the forex. Now let's have a look at the gold chart. It's slowly grinding higher, and we closed above this 50-day moving average. Now, so I think it's all about just playing the moving averages in there. There's no sort of key fibs in play or real trend lines. It's a slow curve really, but I mean, if you look on the weekly, it's been an aggressive sell-off. Last sort of few weekly candles have been bullish, and it looks like it wants to come up and have some sort of healthy retracement. So in terms of the daily chart, it's all about the next target, in my opinion, is this 100-day moving average. See what happens there. If we close above, you won't be surprised to see it grind higher and test this 200-day. You know what I mean? And on this 4-hour chart, it's all about the trendline support as well, and that is still technically holding. Okay, that's all for today. Hope you found that video very useful. If you want to look at any other charts next week, then feel free to comment under the YouTube channel or the Twitter feed, and we'll have a look through them. But yeah, that's it for this week. Hope you have a great week trading. There is NFP out on Friday as well, so keep an eye on that. We'll post up that news on the Twitter feed as well. And yeah, have a great rest of the week trading. Catch you next week. Thanks for listening.